Think about the best person on your team. What are they worth to your business? Gallup found that high-performing employees deliver 21% higher profitability and 59% less turnover. Now think about the worst hire you've ever made. Career Builder says that 41% of businesses lost at least $25,000 and 25% lost more than $50,000 because of one poor recruitment choice. One person can change your P&L for the entire year. So today I'm speaking with the woman who knows exactly how to find the right ones. Christine Howe, founder of Fit Pro Finders and the world's most experienced recruiter in the fitness industry.
Welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast with your host, Justin Tamsett. With over 30 years in the fitness industry, JT is a globally recognised authority with a mission to lower healthcare costs worldwide by getting more people moving and moving more often in quality facilities with qualified professionals. Every episode, JT digs deep with our guests to bring you insights that will help you lead, innovate, and boost your bottom line. So let's dive in. Take it away, JT.
When someone works in the trenches, you know they've got their finger on the pulse, and Christine is in the trenches every single day. She recruits top talent across the US and is the owner and lead recruiter for Fit Pro Finders. Now, this is a full-service staffing firm specialising in entry-level to executive-level roles in the fitness, wellness and sports sectors. Her services include creative sourcing, detailed screening, candidate interviews, career coaching, business coaching and podcast interviews. You're going to hear her wisdom in just 75 seconds.
Hi FBP listeners, this is Zoe. If you've been loving the podcast, I want you to come and experience even more of the good stuff in our FBP Insider community. You can now take a 7-day free trial and see exactly what it's all about. You'll get early access to episodes, ad-free listening, bonus tools from our guests, and access to our monthly workshops all on us for a full week. Just head to patreon.com/fitnessbusinesspodcast, click on membership options and choose 7-day free pass. Come and check it out. I reckon you'll love it.
Now, before we hear from Christine, I want to give a quick shout out to companies that help fitness businesses thrive. These organisations are Rex Roundtable's trusted suppliers, and they support this show and they support the industry. So please support them as they support us. Grow Solutions provides AI and computer vision software for gym member retention. Butterfly provides comprehensive no-cost energy efficiency as a service for businesses. Gym TV provides custom digital entertainment, music and signage for fitness clubs. Performance Food Centres helps businesses open smoothie and juice bars with clean ingredients. Powerplate sells whole body and targeted vibration plate machines for fitness and wellness. A topic of constant discussion at Rex Roundtables is recruitment, where to find good people and how to identify good people in an interview. And if Rex Roundtables is a snapshot of how the rest of the industry is thinking, then we had to get another expert on in recruiting on the show. But not just an expert recruiter in our industry. So welcome, Christine, to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
What are you seeing now as the biggest trends in recruitment in the fitness industry?
Well, one top of mind is definitely AI. AI is something that everyone's talking about across all industries and all different departments, right? But as far as recruitment goes, there's been talk of, is AI going to replace recruiters like myself? Which, of course, is a topic very important to me. But as far as how AI influences what I do, absolutely use it every day in a variety of tools to source and screen candidates, and absolutely love it. Saves us a lot of time, a lot of efficiency to it. However, it is definitely not as efficient and proficient as a human recruiter from my perspective. To me, nothing really replaces one key aspect of what I do is interviews on a call, just like we're on now. So that's something that is really important to me, and I feel like is still going to be very relevant in the industry. So while I believe that AI is a useful tool in this space, it's definitely not capable of replacing it entirely, and definitely not to the maximum efficacy that we're looking for in finding the best talent for these positions.
Any other trends that you're kind of seeing? Are we seeing people from outside the industry wanting to come in, or are we seeing the inside of the industry wanting to move up? Anything along those lines?
All of the above, actually. I was actually going to comment about the sourcing of talent outside of the fitness industry, right? I think there's a lot of transferable industries or transferable skill sets from other industries, hospitality, retail, beauty, anything that's B2C, really, I feel like is very, very transferable and would have great skill sets. At the end of the day, this is a customer-facing industry, especially if we're talking about brick and mortar businesses. So definitely, I think that's a valuable place to be looking for talent. And yes, most of my LinkedIn inbox is flooded with individuals in the industry looking for new opportunities, right? They want something higher up, something with more growth potential, different companies. So yeah, I feel like that there's always going to be an interest in exploring new opportunities at the next level. And definitely in regards to how our industry is evolving, right? For example, wellness being a huge key player, longevity being a huge key player, recovery, performance, sleep, nutrition, right? All these things, how they're evolving and really at the forefront of fitness, and individuals asking about those types of opportunities. So it's an exciting place to be in. And of course, franchising here to stay. Lots of individuals wanting to either get involved in the franchising space, or they're wanting to take on ownership as a franchisee, or just in general wanting to continue their growth in the capacity of working under a franchise umbrella company.
You said that you do some interviews like this, I guess, over the... do you do it over Zoom or over the phone? So do you actually see the people to make sure they're telling the truth?
Yes. Yeah. So when they look away or down or there's a big pause, yeah, we know what that means. Yes, absolutely. And plus, it's very important to get a sense of how someone carries themselves, right? And not just how they speak, but how they carry themselves physically.
So there's a tip for everybody listening straight off the bat. Your interviews aren't on the phone anymore. They've got to be on Teams or on Zoom or Google Meet so that you can actually see the person that you're interviewing. Christine, question without notice. Give me your 3 go-to questions in that interview.
The first one is always what facilitated or what piqued your interest in wanting to learn more about this role. So it's definitely, that's my first go-to, just because for me, passion and purpose are the most important attributes that I'm vetting for, because at the end of the day, none of us are going to perform well at things that we don't like to do, right? So when I hear why someone is interested in a role, it helps me see, are they interested because they feel like this is the job they should be looking for, or is this the job that they really want, that embodies who they are as a person and their purpose, really?
I love that. What's question 2?
Question 2 is definitely going to be, share a bit about your previous work experiences in regards to a situation or situations where you helped your team, if it's for a management role, for example, move up to the next level and accomplish and reach their goals. And then on the flip side, give me a situation where you felt challenged and were in a situation that made you uncomfortable, and just how did you handle that? The third one definitely being, one of the important questions I like to ask in the beginning is, tell me what your understanding of what this role would entail. Right? So I want to know what they know about this job. So one, I can see just how much they've actually prepared and have read the job description, for example, know about the company, so on and so forth. But really, it helps me kind of frame what I'm going to tell them as far as what's their knowledge up until now and what gaps do I need to fill. So I think sometimes what I see with interviewers is they make assumptions on what the candidate knows about the job, and they kind of glaze over things that, can become challenges later on in the process.
I love that last question because I agree. I think think often we assume that they've done their research on the job role or done their research on the brand or done their research on the company, and perhaps more often than not they haven't. They've just seen the ad and gone, let's have a crack at this job. So yeah, that's a great filter, if you will, to be able to identify whether they have done their research and I guess are super keen on the role as opposed to just needing a job.
Absolutely. The two categories you're trying to filter through for sure.
So what are the major challenges most hiring managers or leaders are facing at the moment?
Staffing shortages, turnover, always huge challenges in the industry, but particularly right now as a lot of owners and even major companies, corporate-owned companies even, are operating on limited payroll expense. So I think that trying to find the right person for what they can or are willing to pay can be a challenge. I think that in many instances, I have to have conversations with clients about managing that process, right? So what is it that you need exactly? And for what you absolutely need here, the non-negotiables, does the payroll compete with similar roles in your area? And if the answer is no, then we have to potentially, restructure or reimagine the role and the expectations, or, perhaps they're able to move some of their budgets around and things like that. But in many instances, you are always trying to get the best person for what you can afford, right? And as I said, sometimes you have to get very creative with it. And me as a recruiter, I'm looking in very unique places when I have these types of roles to find people, right? Like you want to find the diamond in the rough, or for example, you're going to want to look at companies that are outside the fitness industry but have a similar skill set, right? And then it's talking through with the owner, the hiring manager, how they can evolve the onboarding process and the training process and the coaching for these individuals to set them up for success.
So your role as a recruiter, I guess what I just heard then is kind of three things. It's one, making sure we've got our ducks in line before we actually go looking for the staff. Then you actually go looking for the staff and present some options. And then number three is you want to make sure that the club has their ducks in line when it comes to onboarding. Is that right? Because I think many people think the recruiter's role is just go out there, find the person, interview them and give you some applicants to choose from. It's more encompassing than that these days?
For me, yes. For me, it's a holistic service is kind of how I think of it. For me, I always tell my clients recruiting is only 50% of what's going to equate to a successful hire, right? The other 50% is really on them in terms of, their process, the onboarding, the coaching, the continuing education and training, right? Like all of that is what makes a successful hire. You could have someone that, let's say I find that has tremendous experience and they walk into a situation where, there's absentee leadership above them or a lack of structure, and their chances of failing are definitely a lot higher.
Again, I guess this is a bit of a question without notice. Are there best practices in a recruitment process? Like, is it one interview? Is it two interviews? Gainesville Health and Fitness do a workout interview. Have you seen anything where you kind of go, actually, these guys have nailed how to find the right person?
Yes, all of that, right? So I think there is some variability in, how many interviews you do, right? I think it depends on the role. It depends on the organizational chart. For example, if we're talking about a trainer or an instructor position, you might have an interview with me and then, a phone interview with the owner, and then the owner invites them in to take a class or get a tour of the gym and then sit down with them in person. So that could be, your 3 interviews right there. Or then, I have leadership roles that I recruit for where they have outside of me 5 additional interviews. I think it really depends, but all the things you mentioned, multi touch points and then something experiential of the brand, I think is really important. So a little story about me when I was interviewing with Exponential. So the people I was interviewing with were in Irvine, where the company is based. And I was still living here in New York City, in Manhattan. And I wanted to get a better sense of who I was talking to and what I was interviewing for, right? So I walked into a local row house, which at the time was owned by Exponential, a local row house that literally the owners and founders of row house were unpacking their newest studio. And I just walk in and I'm just like, hey, so I'm Christine, and who are you and what's going on here? And, I'd love to learn more. And so, I mean, even I'm doing that at this level, right? So I think that, having that hands-on experience or touch point of the company that you're going to be working for is really critical in all level of roles, right? Like it doesn't have to just be a service provider or a coach. It literally could be corporate as well.
Do you bring a level of expertise as a recruiter? I want to go back to the salaries and the commissions and the bonuses or comp packages. Do you bring a degree of knowledge? Let's imagine someone's in Dallas, they're looking for a job. You bring the expertise of the outside the industry salary packages and bring that in and have that discussion with the owner. Is that one of your roles?
Yes, absolutely. So part of what I do in the early stages of the process is I'll do an either very basic or more extensive comp search, right? Like I'll just do some research on the internet and see what similar companies are paying for similar roles in the area. Or again, if you want people from outside the industry or different levels of expertise, you're going to want to scope that out too. And I always tell my clients, like in their, recruiting portfolio, that should be something that they're doing, even if it's at a very high level.
What do you mean by portfolio? That's a really interesting word.
Just the toolkit, the recruiting toolkit.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a great suggestion. So let's imagine we get our little applicant in and we're sitting down with them and we quiz them on the interviews. What sort of things are we looking for to find the best talent? Because you've got rid of all the crap. So now we've got the wheat. We've got rid of the chaff. How do we find the best of the best out of the 3 or 4 people that you've presented to us?
I think it's a few things. So one, you're going to want to vet for, does this person have the passion, the motivation, the interest in what we're looking for here? Does it align with our brand and our vision? That's one thing there. The other thing is coachability. Are they coachable? And are they someone that's going to fit in the way they like to manage people? I always tell people, this was one other question I forgot to add that I like to ask candidates when I interview them, and also clients as well, is what's your management style, and or how do you like to be managed, right? Because that's a really important thing to vet for, because at the end of the day, I'm playing a matchmaker here, right? And you're trying to connect people that align, right? And what could work for you as far as a boss, right, may not work for me, right? So it's just about the 2 pieces fitting together, or sometimes 3 pieces if there's multiple levels of management, right?
We've had previous guests on the show, and one of the things that they've said in order to help identify those really good people is personality profiling, DISC, Myers-Briggs, love languages, whatever the case may be. Your thoughts on that, and if you agree, do you have a go-to profiling tool?
Yes and yes. So my background is actually psychology. I studied psychology for 8 years, and what got me actually into fitness recruiting was I started as a vocational counselor. And so vocational testing, personality assessment testing, I am all for. Now, as far as what I use currently, I don't use any of those major assessment tests, but I've created my own, and it varies on the position, right? So I literally have templates for different clients and different roles as far as key questions that I know that are important to them that I want to snuff out right away. It's usually 5 questions. It could be something very simple like availability, and something more complex about, why they feel like they would be a good fit, or what's something from, their upbringing that they feel like they could bring to the table here, as a person working for this company, something that they had in their background as childhood, adolescence, teenage years, pre-professional times that they feel like provided a great foundation for them that would make them successful to this role.
Yeah, I love those questions, because those formative years as we're growing up have a massive impact on how we respond, how resilient we are. That's diving deeper than a personality profile, because you might be able to fake a personality profile, but once you start digging into how they were brought up and how their parents looked after them or their friends, you find out a whole lot more about that individual, don't you?
Absolutely. Testing for resiliency or poking around for resiliency in terms of how they handle difficult situations is critical, right? Because this industry, these roles are usually very fast paced, very demanding, high expectations, long hours. Basically, it's kind of like they're putting you in a pressure cooker, right? So you do want to see how they respond or how they could potentially respond in some of these scenarios.
So what do you see next for our industry around hiring? What does this look into your crystal ball and give us some ideas that you've got around the future?
Well, you mentioned one of them being hiring outside the industry and really trying to maximize the talent pool. While I do see that there are a lot of job seekers out there, as I said, in my LinkedIn inbox and things like that, but I do feel like there's a disconnect between what companies or owners are looking for and the people who are in the job market, right? So I think that what I'm seeing is trying to find a way to match the two to meet the needs is going to be really critical for us here too. And then other trends, using a staffing agency. Honestly, there are more fitness industry focused staffing agencies than I've ever seen, and all with varying areas of focus and, things that we all bring to the table. But I do feel like that as the corporate structure of many companies is changing, where frankly, a lot of times, even some bigger companies are eliminating HR and recruiting roles. To me, that creates more opportunity for the contractors or fractional or consultants in this space. And there's more of them than ever. And there's a lot of value to working with them and working with us, right? So I feel like that's definitely becoming a bigger trend. And also in that space too, you have a lot more small business owners and franchisees that are outsourcing recruiting to individuals like myself, my company.
This will be a tough one, I think, for you to answer, or maybe it won't, but let's see how we go. How much time do you think you save an owner finding a new staff member?
Well, for sure, the first interview, right? And let's just say that's an hour, right? So that's 1 hour saved right there. And I would even multiply that by, let's say you have 10 candidates that apply for a job, right? And you posted your job. I'm an owner. I post my job. I get 10 applicants, right? I would say maybe 4 to 6 are probably going to actually look like somebody you feel like could be a potential, fit for the role. And then of that, right? Let's say you message all of them and 3 will respond. And then I would say, honestly, 1 will probably show up for the interview. And then you'll have 2 hours on your calendar there that you booked out an hour that those people won't show up at all. So right there with the no-show rate, and I always tell my clients that that's something that I'm going to incur on your behalf, right? So I'll tell you, 60% of my calendar that's candidate interviews, the first round interviews, tend to no show. So already right there, you're saving that time. And then resume reviews, right? As I mentioned, I'd say probably 60% at best of the resumes that you're going to get are going to be an actual fit. So you're spending a lot of time weeding through that. I'm also able to weed through a lot faster because with the time spent in the industry and looking at these resumes, you develop things to look for, I would say even more efficient than AI, and saving time there. And then so by the time that they are actually meeting with the individuals, they've saved themselves. I mean, I'm not sure if I can give an exact number of hours that you've saved, but it would be pretty substantial.
You've probably actually saved me as an owner hours and hours of angst when 60% of people just don't show up. Or reply. Now, I want you to wear a different hat now because you started to mention resumes. If anybody's listening today and they're rewriting their resume, are there any tips on what they need to put in their resume so they really pop when they're applying for a role?
That's an amazing question. And I do want to throw this out there that I do also offer career counseling services to candidates that are looking for new opportunities or want to make a break into this industry. And we do spend a lot of time on resumes because resumes for a lot of us are a huge challenge. And I would say the number one thing that I see in this industry that I tell people that they need to retool, recalibrate, rewrite is almost every role in this space is going to have the purpose, whether direct or indirect, to generate memberships and revenue for these companies, right? And so one thing that I see that's often quite absent on resumes or not in as much detail as it should be is numbers, right? Like I will tell people to add numbers as far as like what, it's really easy to put on your resume, top salesperson for the month of November, right? Previous job. What's the number? How many sales did you generate? What's the quarterly, EFT draft that you were able to bring in for your gym? Or, how many leads, for marketing individuals, how many leads were you able to procure and convert? So there's definitely a lot of different ways you can go with that, but it's really important to have numbers and be very specific about the things you did. Like don't general, personality things, like when people on their resume put like charismatic, motivated, and passionate worker, no one cares about that, right? Like break that down into productivity. That's what people want to see.
And I'm curious, because we are the fitness industry, are photos on your resume of you competing in the males in their, what we would call Speedos, in their shorts, in their bodybuilding competition, or ladies in their bikinis, does that get any cut through these days?
For me, absolutely. I love a photo. I'm going to be really honest. I love a photo. I love a headshot. I'm not a fan of, there's definitely levels and differences to it. The bodybuilding photo, the bikini, the sports bra, the shirtless photo. I could live without that for sure. Now, if we're talking about like a trainer position or a brand ambassador role, influencer.
Maybe different.
A little different. I still don't love it, but I love a good headshot. Like that will always entice me all day.
And should we clean up our Instagram feed if we're applying for a job?
Yes, absolutely. I always tell my clients to definitely Google the people that they're seriously considering. Also do reference checks. You'd be surprised. There are many companies that are not doing reference checks. So definitely do reference checks and definitely look people up on the internet and socials for sure. So anyone that's applying, if you're remotely findable, make sure it looks clean, right? Nothing crazy, because I've definitely weeded people out that I've looked up and they had absolutely crazy Instagrams.
Finally, last question. After listening today, the very first action our FBP family and listeners are going to do is reach out to you. How do they do that?
You can reach out to me through my email, Christine@fitprofinders.com. You can connect with me or my company, Fit Profinders, on Instagram or LinkedIn as well. And if they reach out to you, then they could reach out to me.
Yeah, we will put all Christine's details in the show notes, so make sure you check the show notes out at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. What's the second action? So first action is to contact you. What's the second action that they should do? Can you make this a bit of an exclusive tip for the Fitness Business Podcast listeners?
Yes, I think, you got to really take a few steps back, actually, and think about what role, how this role is going to fit into your organization, and what are the really, what is facilitating the need for this role, right? And what do you, 3 to 5 key functions that you absolutely need, and then what are the 3 to 5 nice to haves would be, right? And really just thinking about who this person could potentially be and how they would fit into your company culture. I think some of those soft skill sets that we don't always think about, not just the certifications, the years of experience, right? I think it's just thinking about what kind of person do I want to work here, and how do I want them to add and build to our culture and to our bottom line.
All right, Christine, you have dropped nuggets of gold for us today on recruitment. Thank you so much for all of your time. Congratulations on your career in the industry. You are a global expert in recruitment and you have helped everybody today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
If you take nothing else from today's conversation, remember this: your business will only be as strong as the people inside it. Your equipment ages, marketing trends change, but the right team, that is your competitive advantage. And if you want to elevate the leadership skills of your team and invest in their future, then send them to the Rex Leadership Academy US or the Rex Leadership Academy AU. US listeners, go to rexleadershipacademy.com and you can register now to save on your enrollment fees. And I'll see you there. Aussies, just hit me up on LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, and I'll tell you all about the AU version of the Rex Leadership Academy, because it will start in March. Now, late last year, I took a Rex Roundtable to the George Washington Leadership Institute, and I am interviewing one of those presenters next week, Heather Subra. And to make sure you don't miss any interviews, any show, any episode, why don't you head over to patreon.com/fitness business podcast and subscribe there. There are free memberships, trial memberships, and paid memberships, so you never miss a show. Now, are you feeling inspired from this episode? The best way to support this podcast is by leaving a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you're listening to. Your feedback helps us reach more fitness professionals around the world, and it genuinely means a lot to us at FBP HQ. And remember, what we leave behind is not set in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.